wrestling, they try to tell you to learn as many things as possible. They try to tell you to be a sponge. They try to tell you to absorb what you can. And even if you don't listen to the lesson, there is still a lesson to be learned. I feel as if this gentleman has learned many a lesson. I think he's going to be shocked with how long I've been following his career. We're going to talk about things such as his time training as a wrestler, becoming a wrestler, what led to him becoming a promoter, and what led to him ultimately becoming the promoter for the most magical wrestling establishment on earth, at least in the tri-state area. Ladies and gentlemen, my probably on Facebook, my favorite meme lord, joining me at this time, owner, proprietor, and occasional wrestler, Steve Off. Welcome.
Cheyenne, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's been far too long, and I'm glad we finally got this done.
I'm glad we finally got to do this. Of course, Christmas party, the Road to Kingdom Come, is coming up this weekend, this Sunday.
Yep.
And I got to say, despite some heavy competition, there is no reason for you not to check out this show at the Mecca this coming Sunday. I want to go through the card real quick. We'll talk about it in long form for the Pro Wrestling Magic. And yes, I am cheating with my phone because, other announcers in the tri-state area, what are you looking at your phone for? Anyway, Pro Wrestling Magic, the Dark Arts Championship is on the line when my buddy, my favorite puto, Mike Donovan, just Donovan, he's like Cher. Donovan, the champion, defends against Alex Rivera. Steve Pena goes one-on-one against Azrael. We're talking about the extremely small font as the self-proclaimed Pro Wrestling Magic World Junior Heavyweight Championship is on the line when Trey Felipe defends against my boy, Isaiah Wolf. Very much looking forward to this because he is probably my favorite person on the Magic roster. No offense to anyone. Troy Locke defends that Junior Heavyweight Championship against my buddy Nunzio. Keys to the Kingdom qualifier, Smiley versus Darius Carter in a hardcore match that has gotten quite the fever on social media. The timeless one. Crowbar takes on Bruno El Aso Blanco. Going to be a lot of whiskey after the match for that one. For the Women's World Championship of Pro Wrestling Magic, Kelsey Reagan defends against the notorious Mimi. And in the unsanctioned non-title, I expect the lights to go out for 4 seconds before the match. Alex Ryman and Sean Donovan. If that can't get you to buy a ticket, I don't think Funkmaster Flex Night will. So, real quick, your thoughts on this particular card for this weekend. You have purposely left yourself off the show to let all the competitors shine. Of course, you'll be back for the big December event.
Right.
I don't want to harp too much on the percolation, if you will, between the tension of Alex Ryman and Sean Donovan, but the card as a whole, could you please give your thoughts?
Man, creatively, I'm going to open the door a little bit here and then show you some inside baseball, if you will. But it's wrestling, so inside wrestling. Half of this card was supposed to be on October, and a lot of the talent had weddings or other things to do and work and whatnot, and Nunzio had another booking. So we pushed a lot of this off to November. So instead of 2 good cards, we had one in October, which was a good card, but it was a lot of introductory talent making their debut for the first time. They all did pretty well, but that's what it was. It was more, there were story points, but it was less story-based, less of our guys and more, let's see what these guys and girls can do. And this show is loaded. So instead of 2 good cards, we have one incredible card and one that was pretty good last month. So definitely check that out. It's on our YouTube now. If you're not familiar with Pro Wrestling Magic, before I get into the card, I want to urge you to go over to our YouTube, subscribe, and check out our last 2 events, Back from Vacation and Doomsday, are both live now completely for free. We want to catch everybody up on what's been going on. If you have not followed us, check us out. If you've not followed us in a while, welcome back. It's very different from the Pro Wrestling Magic you knew, but just as good in different ways. So definitely check it out. Man, the card is loaded.
To help sell that point,
F-bomb last show, and that's part of why I'm not on the card. Creatively, I really didn't have anything. Originally, the promo I was going to do last show, I was going to do this show originally, but Vinny was there in the house, so I'm like, let me cut it now so he gets to hear what I got to say. He can counteract, however, in real time. So that's why that got moved around. But man, this card is ridiculous. Like I
want to point out that for those of you who check out Pro Wrestling Magic, I encourage you to check out both shows. But if you can, try to check them out in order, because this is a storyline-based promotion. This is a continuity-based promotion. So I encourage you to start with Back to School and then go into the October show, Doomsday. And of course, here we are now for this November event. Can we talk BWO?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
So BWO along with, I mean, the first indie I ever heard of was ECWA. I talked about that when I spoke with Ryan on his show. They were in the magazines and things like that. But ECBW, Ace, BWF, BWO, those were some of the feds that I was like, oh, there's wrestling outside of wrestling. Right. And that's where I first heard your name years ago before I got into the business. That's why I would remember Darius Carter's name, Tristan Law.
Yep.
Tristan, I think, had a different name when I first saw him on flyers and such. But I want to specifically talk about BWO because you've gotten extremely transparent with how grateful you are about the success of Pro Wrestling Magic. Yep. And I think all of that stems from like your roots with BWO.
It does directly.
And I see a lot of similarities in the fact that I'm very transparent about nothing that I do, no matter how big or small it is, doesn't come from where I started. So what are your thoughts from a reflective standpoint about BWO now? Because you also later became like a mainstay there, starting out there, and then eventually top guy, right?
Yeah. Top guy, top tag team guy, singles and tag, but different times. Yeah, man, like BWO was so before its time.
Yeah.
And it still had a great fan base at that time, but I'm just saying there weren't these companies, these indies where a lot of guys would come through and then they'd make it. There weren't a lot. There were, you know, you had your Ring of Honor, which was an indie back then, and like that was kind of it that produced stars. And I wouldn't say BWO produced a million stars, but a lot of guys came through there that became stars.
Yeah. Sure.
And a lot of guys who are stars, who were on TV, who were no longer on TV, came to BWO for a platform like Nunzio, Crowbar, who would come in and cut their price big time. I won't give numbers, but I do know them. But like they cut their price big time because they wanted to be a part of it. Yeah. It was just a different vibe. It wasn't like, oh, it's good wrestling. I mean, yeah, it was, but it was so much more than just good wrestling. It was an experience.
Sure.
Part of something. You were, you know, the fans were all, they became friends with each other. Some of the fans had like gimmicks. Like we had, God rest his soul, Tommy Hunter and Rob Pays as Verbal Abuse in the front row. And they loved the shows, but they would bust everybody's balls, face or heel. They didn't care.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And the Ace Arena had guys like that too. I don't think Fat Frank had to deal with that for JAP. But I know BWA and Ace had those hardcore. Yeah. They wouldn't fight the wrestlers, but they do everything but.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. They'd let you take a swing at them, and they probably wouldn't have sued you for it. I didn't take that chance, but they probably would have loved it being part of the show.
Here's something that I should ask some constituent of JP and someone at Ace too. Do you think a lot of feds didn't realize, I don't think the planet realized, physical media was going to have a shelf life? And a lot of promotions didn't want to get rid of hard copies, didn't want to transition to the internet, to YouTube, to this, to that, all these things. A lot of companies were hard pressed on that. Some missed the boat, some caught it right in time. Do you think that in a digital era, that would have at least helped BWO's shelf life?
Easily. They'd still be around today if digital media and streaming had been a thing with the cards we were putting on.
Yeah.
Bro, I mean, you were there for some of them, you know, like, I think it would have been, I definitely think that would have been a thing. And I don't know if it, you know, stopping running is more Preacher and Richie burning out or the lack of, I mean, they never had a lack of fans. Any show I was at, some were better than others, but anytime in North Jersey, they'd draw. South Jersey would do okay. But like, man, that would have made a huge difference. We would have been making bank.
Yeah, I think I don't want to be rude, but I always felt like, especially because I've never been to them, so I can understand scrutiny with the statement. I feel like South Jersey shows, depending on what it is you're doing, are always tough to draw. Yeah. Because in essence, you're only drawing that neighborhood, that market, and Philly. Whereas the North stuff, you can get somebody from New York, even Connecticut, you know, the 5 boroughs, of course, other parts of Jersey. Because when you're in, you know, when you're in Ridgefield Park, well, you can get, you know, Lodi, Bogota, Union City, Newark, you know, it's pretty much to get to. South Jersey, it's like, oh, all the way out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. It's tough. And then if you're a mass transit guy like me, it's even worse, you know, because you got to leave before the main event or you're staying there tonight. Yeah. So I had to ask that because I've really appreciated your affinity for it. Because when you're in the moment,
Mhm.
I think that's another thing that people don't realize about life. Our trainers don't realize it too. When you're in the moment, you can't process it.
No, you definitely
When
can't.
you're in the moment, when you're training and your trainer's like, why don't you just do this? Why don't you do that? It's not that I don't want to do it. It's like, I am like, dude, I'm living this right now. Could you just bear with me? And 10 years from now, we'll talk about it. And I feel like that's where we're at with a couple different places.
For sure. And also, since you're a BWO fan from back in the day,
Yeah.
did you catch the little nod I gave, the tip of the cap in the new Magic logo
Yes, I did.
with the little wingspan on the top?
I did. That was what made me ask this question, because there were a lot of feds that I didn't go to, but at that time, I don't want to say dirt sheets, but they were before Bob Morenin passed away, all the results were online.
Yeah.
Somebody would send them to Bob and they would get out there, and the posters would get out there and the dates. And so I always knew the cards. I always knew the results. JP was like the original Forbidden Door, because, Janetti, Scott Hall, Vader, Mike Awesome. Samoa Joe. You could go on and on about everybody JP got, all the different TNA stars that Ace got. You never knew who was going to work for Gino at ECBW. That was like a trend at one point. Like, how the hell did Gino get this guy? Then it became, Tony Atlas, Drew, Beefcake, all these guys that were regulars. Piper was a regular for Gino at one point too. So the internet has always been good to indie wrestling. Indie wrestling hasn't always been good to the internet, in my opinion.
That's true. Definitely true.
So I remember being at the early Magic shows at the old Wallington building and stuff like that. And I mean this sincerely, because I've never had this question with you. It isn't the whole, why'd you leave the Ace building? That's not the question. The question is more so because I understand why you did. How did you get to Ridgefield Park, now known as the Mecca, which I'm sure Sean Donovan is like, no, the Mecca is actually the what's the big building for JP Wrestle Pro?
Because there can only
Broadway,
be
the
one.
Rec Center.
There's only one building that everyone should want to work at. Only one. There's not multiple.
Right. The Rec Center, which by the way,
I want to work the Garden. I don't want.
Right. Which, by the way, I love how nobody ever says the Mecca's the Rex Plus. Thank you. Anyway, just saying.
No heat there, but that does pop me.
That's just me get it out there. So how did you find the building? Because to my knowledge, only Gino was there for TV for a long time.
Yep.
And in essence, yeah, he's still there, obviously, because I love Gino, but the building is essentially associated with wrestling and pro wrestling magic.
Yep.
What's that decision like for you?
So we had been, I love Mike and I loved Ace, and I'm sad I didn't get to perform there more, but it got expensive and it was worth the price. It was worth the price, but it still had the price tag on it.
Sure.
And we were not drawing there, which I'm seeing other people now that were flashing forward to Ridgefield Park that don't draw the way that we do unless they're name loaded.
Yes.
So that was a factor. We were like, well, we're not really drawing here. It's expensive. Yeah, they're nice and it's a great setup. It looks great on camera. It looks great in photos. But how great are those photos and camera going to look if you pan to the other side of the room and see there's only fans on one or two sides or whatever it was? Like,
right.
That was rough.
Right.
And there wasn't much room for growth. The parking sucked, and there wasn't much room in the actual venue for the fans, as great as it looked. You could maybe
the parking was a catch-22, right? Because the parking in essence was great for talent, but not for fans.
Right, because we were there early, so fuck them. So we've been looking around. We finally settled on a location to try. So the funny part is I didn't find Mecca, or Ridgefield Park building, Phil Sheridan building, whatever you want to call it. I didn't find it. My then business partner and good friend Anthony Iovino found it.
Okay.
And he said, hey, man, I found a spot. They're really cheap. We're going to run there. And I looked it up, and I'm like, bro, like companies have run here in the past, and they haven't really drawn well. And Gino runs here right now, and I train at his school. I don't want to show him disrespect by, running in his building. Did you have
to go the old school way about, hey, let me call Gino, let me ask him first? Did you do that? And it's okay if you didn't, but no. I mean, you just like went ahead, and I get it.
No. And I mean, because my business partner was insisting on it. I believe I talked to him after the fact and was like, hey, just let you know, we're not trying to compete with you. If you want to leave flyers on our show, you can. I don't know if that was like right off the bat or if it was later on or whatever. That whole time frame is a blur.
But you
I just
did it,
became a
which
new
is
dad around
great.
that time, so that whole time frame is just like a blur. But yeah, I was originally against it, and then we went, and it worked. And we were renting a ring at that time. We had purchased one, but we hadn't all had the time to put it together, test it out, see what needed to be fixed. So we didn't store the ring there originally. We rented one, but we had the rental come in. Boom, everything went smooth. We drew a decent crowd. We're like, you know what? We're staying here.
Yeah.
And we did some shows outside of there, like where it was paid. New Milford High School, where they gave us X amount of budget and things like that. And Cliffside Park, where they gave us free promotion, free access to all the schools and half the gate. And we just wound up breaking even, but at least we didn't lose money on that one. But yeah, no, I mean, and then for the most part, our shows have been there. Will we outgrow that building one day? Probably. It's not there yet. We're not there yet. But
no, but I think a lot of wrestling promotions, and I feel safe, a lot of wrestling promotions don't want to play the long game, right? Because even with starting Magic, even with going to Ridgefield, I mean, you know, I'm saying this with respect. You probably saw the return on that building 12 to 18 months later.
Yeah.
Right.
If that.
And a part of that was booking in the card and storylines and things like that, right?
And mostly it was a break even, and we didn't lose money a lot, but we mostly broke even.
Yeah.
Because we spent so much fucking money on talent and flights.
At the beginning, Steve, those budgets were up there.
We had to, though, because it was the best and the worst way to do things, because like Anthony just wanted to throw money at this thing. He's like, it's going to grow. It's going to grow real. Yeah. Problem is, it grew way too fast, and we could not keep up with it. So it was a blessing and a curse. And then we had 2018 to 2022 or so. That was kind of a down. I wouldn't say the matches were bad. Like, you had Bruno's Dark Arts title run, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You had Bruno's heel run, which got cut short. You had Smiley's come up, and so there was so many. You know, the AMS split and our feud, which was fucking incredible. Best work of my career, easily. Yeah. Man, as story wise, character wise, match wise, like there was nothing. I don't know that I'll top that.
I think 19 was a good year for you guys.
I mean, there were high points for sure. And the end of 19, beginning of 20, we'd started to turn profit. We made money 3 shows in a row, and then COVID happened.
Fucking pandemic. Oh my God. But that first show back, right?
I've since paid it off, but I put about $2,000 or $3,000 on a credit card because of one show that did not draw well that we had to pay for out of pocket. Wow. That whole era, that almost bankrupted me, that whole era. And I've paid it off since. Like, it was easy. Just diligent with it. But like, man, like I'm not going to be one of those promoters that don't pay the boys or pays the boys later. Or, you know, if there's one person I forget and get them tomorrow, fine, but it's legit going to be because I forget, not because I don't have the money. Like,
and also you're going to do that. Unfortunately, you're going to do that with somebody you have a rapport with. Yeah. Not somebody you just met, because you might want to, hey, listen, I want you to come back next time. Here's your stuff. Versus a regular, hey man, just give me 12 hours. I got you. You know, type of stuff. So here's my thing with that, because Magic growing exponentially, great production, great everything.
Thank you.
How I'm sure you, maybe more than anybody right now, deciding on talent has to be a pain.
Horrible.
And then on
There's
top
so
of that,
much good talent. So much good talent. Like,
and it's all good talent. But here's the other thing too. You in particular are in a tough spot, I feel, because people are coming to train, coming to set up. You have your regulars. Some of those people that are coming to train and set up are on your roster, right?
Yep.
And then what a lot of people, especially guys that are just starting out and some of the older talent, because I feel like there's no healthy middle, are, oh, well, just put me on. And if you don't book somebody, you hate them, you don't like them, you this, you that.
Oh, bro. You have no idea how much I've gotten that.
No, it's true. And how stressful is that? Because I try to ask, I've had Mike on, I've had Gino on, I've had a couple guys, Ryan for the Super 8 alone. Like, for you in particular, your dynamic of booking talent has to be extremely difficult. Yeah. And I wanted to ask that so that it's out there for talent. Honestly.
So basically what we look for, what the parameter is if you're a piece of shit, don't even bother coming in the door. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how many tickets you sell. I have a really good locker room right now. I don't really think there's any shitheads. If there are, they're 1 or 2 and they play it on the DL and I haven't noticed it yet, but there's no way I miss it with that many people. So at the risk of sounding like a cocky prick, we have a really great locker room. And I don't care if that sounds, honestly, I really don't care if that sounds cocky, because we do have a great, I'm not saying it's the best. I'm not saying someone doesn't have a better one somewhere. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Not my place to say. We have a great locker room. I'm not going to upset that. I don't give a fuck how good you are. If you are a piece of shit, don't waste your time, because I will see through it quickly. Not always instantly, but quickly. You got to be a good worker. That doesn't mean you got to do all the fucking high spots in the world. I don't care about that.
Right.
Put on a solid wrestling match. I don't care if you work holds and you're a submission specialist. Cool, if you do it well. You know, and being cutting promos. Cutting promos is more important than any of that.
Right.
Because if you have the best attitude and the best matches, and no one knows you're having these matches, who gives a fuck? Who cares?
Right.
No one knows. They can't care. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure you get this, but just like, bear with me here for a second for those that don't. If we're not showing the world what we have, they're not going to see it. If we're not putting ourselves out there with promos, and match graphics are great and sharing them is nice and all, it does help. But the promos, like someone who sucks at social media but is doing his best, the promos get like 3 or 4 times the views of a match card.
Absolutely.
I don't know why, but Instagram is biased, and they, you know, they stack it like that, where views go more to the videos.
But it's also there's like there's also a terminology for this. There's something about when now with social media that when you see an image, whereas an individual, you will always click on the individual.
I can see that.
You know what I mean? Like now, if you've noticed, memes are videos.
Yeah.
You know, memes before memes before were just these still images that you were like relating to. Yeah. Now memes are videos, because our attention span is shortening, but what we pay attention to is so selective now.
Yeah, I like both. Don't get me wrong. But I don't like that I can't find great memes on Insta or Twitter. It's usually just Facebook, sometimes Twitter. But like Instagram, I've not seen any in a while. I see great reels. But I'm like, I can't send this to someone. They're not going to watch this while they're at work. I can't, pop the boys with this. What the fuck?
Yeah.
But, and another thing with the talent is I wanted to emphasize this. Even if you have all the tools, I have guys that do and girls that do, and they're very loyal. They've been very loyal, and I need to return that loyalty. They're not going to be on every show, but understand that when you're coming to help out, or when you're coming to try to get in the door, or whatever it is, you're trying to take someone's spot. Maybe not permanently, but for that night. Right? So, I don't mind rotating guys and girls, but if we have 100 people and I got to rotate them on 10 shows a year, do the math. You might be on 1 or 2 cards. That's cool.
Right, and then the other thing too is, and I guess because I'm trained by a booker, right? You have 8 matches, right? Thank God. You have 8 matches. Of those 8, 3 of them, for the most part, will be an angle. Long term,
right?
In the middle, just starting. So those 3 are, in theory, guaranteed to be on, whether it's both players or one of them to expedite the story. So in theory, there's only 7 or 6 out of 10 that there might be room for. Oh, what if it's a championship match? Well, it's fodder, right? Because you're just coming in. I don't need a shock win. So do you mind taking a lose? Well, I mean, brother, I just followed WWE ID on Twitter. I don't think it's good for me to lose right now. So, I just want to get,
gives me that.
I just want to get like the thought process out there to a degree from both ends. Yeah. A lot of times it's like, oh, he doesn't like me because he doesn't book me. No, it's when you're a constantly running Fed, it is difficult.
Yeah.
And then some people, look, you were doing dark matches to get guys on as a thank you for ring crew, and that wasn't enough for some people. And to a degree, there's not, oh, all right, well, sure, all right. I mean, you should just stick around, but I get it. But I think if the transparency is out there, right, it's a little bit better. This is a general question. I don't think you have this problem. I think you're in a fairly healthy spot. You have a lot of homegrown talent at Magic.
Yep.
I think this is the talent that you've been cultivating since 2020. It's almost, 2021 rather, or because you ran the 3 months since 2020. It's almost 5 years later. So there's that homegrown talent. Mm-hmm. It's evident who's getting swapped out. I don't want to say names and offend people, but what I'm getting at is, do you think right now the indies are heading back to where it was pre-pandemic, where it was very name heavy? Because that's what I feel like. I feel like we're not there, but we're approaching it. And there's the ethos of, well, the homegrown talent won't draw for X amount of time. Well, a $10,000 show also might not draw. And I feel like we don't have a healthy middle right now in general, not you.
We don't.
Do you have any comments about that?
No, you're absolutely right. And not every company is going to be name heavy. Like you have UWA uses all their guys.
Right.
Magic uses mostly. I'm going to use names, but like mostly our guys. We have a small venue. Like 250 is really all we could. Maybe 3 is all we could fit there, and that's like really squishing. I'm not saying we haven't fit more illegally against fire code when Cody was there, but that was a long time ago, and there's a statute of limitations. So now I can talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, man.
Cody's the highest gate, right, for Magic?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I think that's the record still.
May not be the highest profit because we spent a lot of money on that show, but definitely the highest attendance.
It's that, and then the one where Bruno's in the main event, right?
Bruno and Kerr was the second, yeah.
Bruno and Kerr, yeah. Yeah, okay.
And I think after that might be either Kingdom Come 5 or the Rumble the month after.
And we had standing room and the other one that had a good card from the Barry Manilow era, it was either Could It Be Magic or
that was it, probably.
Yeah, is that the one where Donovan wins the key?
No, Donovan winning the key was at Kingdom Come.
Was it Kingdom Come? Okay, because I was at Kingdom Come. I was at Could It Be Magic?
Could It Be Magic? I think was Keith Lee, Cody Rhodes.
Okay, yeah, because those were also strong houses. I'm trying to think of like, you know, like the uphill battle. Yeah, I think, yeah. Yeah, because we had just had Keith Lee and then you guys brought him in. Yeah. So I just feel like we're in that era of not having the balance. And then we're going back to, TV talent versus TV talent.
Which is fine, but how is it sustainable when they go back or when they go somewhere else? What are you going to do? Who have you built? I'm not saying not to bring a name in. We're bringing Crowbar and Nunzio in, and they're semi-regulars at Magic, and I don't think they desire to go back full time. I don't know. I can't speak for them. I know Nunzio has a great job with the pension, so he probably shouldn't want to go back full time.
Right.
But you never know. You get the bug, things can happen. But ultimately, unless it's someone you know is probably not looking to go back full time, what do you do when they go? Because they're probably gonna.
Right.
Then what? At least use them to build someone. Like one company brought in Austin Aries and had him build this one guy for them, and that was smart. Like if you're going to bring someone in that's a name, use them to build someone. Put them over for now, maybe put your belt on them, but then have them drop it to somebody that's on your roster. I don't know. Common fucking sense, I would think. But
right.
But you can't just do a whole show of names, man. And I see people doing it, and it's like, yeah, you're drawing, but how are you making profit?
Yeah, I mean, you can't
NEW is really the only one. Yeah, NEW is probably the only one I could think of that, because they run big ass like high school gyms and stuff.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Huge gyms, and they put names on, and they charge a lot for their tickets. So they probably make money, some kind of money. But like,
yeah, but that's apples and oranges, right? Because that's a Fed that's charging first row, second row, third row.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a price tier, because in theory, if you sell out the first 2 rows, depending on your price point, you could at least cover the building, let's just say. Right. And then the boys are covered in theory before the gate. So then the gate's kind of like, all right, after everything's said and done, we made 1,000. It depends
all
on
for $1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you spent 10 and you only made $1,000, there is something wrong. Which guys would also do it for a long time.
I try to keep our budgets like $3,000 to $4,000, and then I can at least break even on them. Yeah. Less than that is it's a short show. More than that, you're not going to make it back.
Yeah.
So
the other thing I want to talk to you about, because I feel like you're in the right direction. I joked about it. 8 matches, right?
Well, actually, 8 matches on IWTV. We're also filming 2 for YouTube.
All right, because you're bringing back Saturday Morning Magic.
But that was a last-minute addition because we were going to bring the show back. And I want the matches on there to be important and good, but not relative to any main storylines in case someone doesn't watch.
Right.
So that way, if you don't watch the main show, the pay-per-view, you still get to watch the next one. You'll understand. But
that's a different structure as opposed to 10 matches on a main card. We were very much on a 10 card era from like 18 all the way up to 21, 22.
Yeah.
We got to get everybody on. We got to get this. We got to have a battle royal. Some feds try to make a battle royal like part of the fed, and that alone is cost effective when you have 10 guys in the ring at once.
Yeah.
That's God knows how much on a budget. Yeah. And I just like what you're doing. Can I ask what talent is surprising you the most right now, in a good way, obviously, at Magic? Because again, you have a lot of homegrown talent. When he is there, I like what you do with Buddy Thomas, Vinny Pacifico, part of the rocket that he's riding on top of his incredible talent has been through Pro Wrestling Magic.
Yep.
Troy Locke, I don't mean to be rude. That is a guy that you guys have really built. The second coming of Bruno has been fantastic. I can go on and on, obviously. But is there a talent that you're like, I'm happy with what we've done with him?
So Troy Locke, honestly, I didn't expect much. I knew he was solid, but I didn't expect him to blow up like he has that quick.
Yeah.
But I figured a year or two down the road, this guy will be something. Maybe we'll build something of him. And man, he kept showing up to help out. He kept delivering when he gave him an opportunity. He wrestled Steve Pena for the heavyweight title. Pena gave him the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't go by any one person's word, but he's one of the people that I would trust to. He don't put anybody over unless they deserve it. And he put the kid over to me. He's like, yeah, he's good. So, and then I got to tag with him once. That was fun. But I mean, we're both trained with Preacher. I trained with Preacher. He's trained by Preacher. So, like, there's a lot of that same mentality there. So we get along really well. We're on the same page with everything. So working with him's great. Mateo Marcelos, you haven't seen the best of yet because we're just starting to get rolling with him. I won't spoil anything, but I think you guys are really going to be hyped on what you see from him.
Yeah.
And in the ring, he's been stepping up a lot. So, and behind the scenes, like he's my left hand. Bruno's my right hand man. He's on the left. Like those are my guys.
Yeah.
Alex Rivera as well. Alex Rivera is still learning. So I don't know where he's going to go yet, but just the fact that he's far ahead of where I thought he would be by now is impressive. And we'll see how he does against Donovan because he's impressed me a lot.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward because this is my first time getting a look at him. And since like a real look at him, I've seen him at a couple BCW shows.
Right.
But I haven't seen him in the ring yet. I've seen him in some of the skits with Shane. But I'm looking forward to seeing him in the ring, be it through backstage or again to see the match live or what have you. I don't think it had a lot of scrutiny, but I have to ask in a good way. Shane Fair is a huge beacon of Pro Wrestling Magic.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of friends in the business. He's one of them. I love Shane. Great dude. I could go on and on. Putting him in the ring earlier this year was an extremely say what you will about whether it should or shouldn't. I was invested. I was like, wow, this is a cool thing. This hasn't been done on the indies in a while in the tri-state. He cut that promo at the baseball stadium about, no, I'm not a wrestler. I'm not of this. I'm not of that, but I'm a man and all these things. Was that in theory because Sean Donovan has harped on the stay in your lane thing, and to a degree he's not wrong, even if he's kind of over harped on it. Was that somewhat of a reward as a booking decision of like, you do so much for me. Here is something I can do for you, because you really gave Shane his flowers in that moment. And as an announcer, as his friend, that I really admired. And that was one of the key storylines before the season ended for Magic this year. So I want to touch on that. Obviously, you were involved in the cage match and all that.
Right. It was a fun match too. So,
and did Shane potato anybody?
He didn't hit me, so I can't say for sure.
Okay, he's got those big mitts. Those white gloves cover the size. He's got big hands.
He's got some power there. He don't give himself enough credit. So I can't really speak for that. None of the boys complained about it. But as far as that moment being a reward, I guess it was. That whole angle, the whole story was a reward. It was like, all right, well, you're the GM, but now what? And then we had the Smiley idea came up. We're like, okay, let's have you guys be co-GMs, start butting heads. Sure. And then something's got to give. And then, how it came with Darius helping Smiley get the company. Smiley tells Darius to fuck off, doesn't give him his title shot. Darius is part of the overall fall of Smiley, although he wasn't in the cage match. He was supposed to be, but that schedules didn't work out.
Right.
But yeah, no, that Shane wasn't originally supposed to be in the match. I was on the fence, honestly, because.
So you were going to go, but only so far.
Right. And then we talked about it. And I had the idea. I don't remember if it was my idea or his idea, but I was okay with it. I think it was mine. I was like, Shane, what would you feel about doing like a quick spot in the match? I didn't want him to be in the whole thing. I said, a quick spot for the finish, come in, hit a move, and you pin Smiley. He's like, no, I want to be in the match. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It was something along those lines. Like I said, everything's kind of a blur, but that's basically what went down. And I was going to pull him from it because he was having some health issues. I won't get into, his personal.
Yeah, no,
he's doing much better now.
It's fine.
He's doing much better
Yeah,
now. But like
yeah,
at the time, I wasn't sure if he'd be medically cleared. He did get medically cleared, and he, showed me proof of it. And he's like, "I want to go." All right, doctor said it's okay. Who the fuck am I to say no?
right.
And he did so much better than I thought he would. Like I figured he'd do all right, but he killed it. He'd been training with Smiley apparently beforehand, and they killed it. They did fucking
Yeah,
great.
yeah. No,
And now,
it was beautiful to see the execution and the reward. Because ultimately, like anything else, you could have a Hollywood script, you could have a hit TV show. You don't know until it's executed.
Right.
And that was a home run.
I didn't realize what we had till we had it. And even while we were well into the angle, I'm like, yeah, the fans are hot for it, but I didn't think it would be ending the way it did. And just the drama of that match that they came up with, or the finishing sequences of the match that they came up with, the whole go home was just so good.
And it
So
helps
good. And
because
from a non-wrestler.
Smiley is very much planted as a dirtbag in pro wrestling magic. Shane is beloved everywhere he goes. There's people that when they see Shane as the announcer, they're like, "Oh, this show's got to be good." He's got his equity in the business in the tri-state area, and I just have to hats off to you guys really for doing that so well.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean a lot of the angles that you guys do, as long as talent can commit, have always been sublime. But in the last 18 months, it's been another level, and I just felt I felt I had to bring that up. There's all these different opportunities right now in the indies for independents, for talent, for even promotions. Where do you see Magic for 2025? I don't want to get into the whole, what talent, the company.
Right.
Because you've been the company's trajectory has been so upward.
Right.
I would hope and assume that you're already thinking, all right, next year, all right, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to go here, I want to go there. You've had the stadium shows that have been so successful. You've had a couple of charity shows this year that have been successful.
Right.
IWTV, YouTube, bringing back Saturday Morning Magic, all these things. When executed well, they're not on top of each other. They're just layers. What are, if any, some goals and ideas that you're already thinking for 2025?
So we definitely have the baseball stadium coming back up. We will be there for their opening weekend, which last year drew 7,000 fans from what I heard. We weren't there, but they said it drew 7,000. So they're like, oh, let's bring wrestling in and see if we could draw a couple more. All right. Yeah, we will.
Sure.
And I hope it's anywhere near that, because the most I've ever performed in front of as a wrestler, not as an extra, but as a wrestler, was about 1,200 people. And that was awesome. So I can't even imagine what 70, even if half of them stayed, it's 3,500. Wow. And that show's going to be dope. There's definitely all bangers on that one. So it's going to be May 10th and July 12th, those two. I haven't worked on the cards yet. I've worked on, I will say January through March is going to be ridiculous. It's like balls to the wall nonstop. I won't mention talent. There will be some new, some old, and a lot of in between. But man,
and you've already, I mean, obviously you don't have any cards yet, which is very common for this era promoted. Oh, you do?
I mean, I don't have the graphics yet, but I have the cards made up. Yeah.
So you're already
through March. We're done. I have a little wiggle room where I could add things, take things out if I have to.
Okay.
But, the basic story arcs I kind of know through Kingdom Come 10 of next year. At least the top three. I kind of know the top three matches for next year, although I don't know how we're going to get there. But I know, this is what we're building to for next year already. And I have a full card, but it's going to change.
What's the one thing you hope to happen for the 10th anniversary?
Man, some returns, I hope, which I like I said, there are some open spots, so that's not finalized yet, but working on some things. A lot of people stepping up, whether it be people who have stepped up in the past or new people, and just the celebration of everything we've been and everything we're going to be. And what we are now is great, but you got to remember where you came from and you got to see where you're going. Those are much more important than what you are now. Although what you are now, if it isn't good, you're not going to get where you're going.
Sure.
So, I mean, but if you have a good product and people don't know about it, I don't know. So it'll be guys who cut promos, guys and girls who cut promos, because anyone who hasn't, I'm cutting. Even if they're a champion, I'm taking the belt from them and cutting them. I haven't had a whole lot of issue when I start taping them at the shows, but I'm thinking going forward, if someone doesn't do a promo, and this is more in-house stuff, but if someone doesn't do a promo, they're faced with the choice: you can either work for free, or you can go home.
Yeah, I mean,
no one knows you're here. You're having a great match, but no one knows about it.
And it's funny because I have the saying of like, hey guys, the share button is free, but it's not enough.
There we go. Like at the very least, if you can't share it, what do I need you for?
Like, and look, let's say what it is. Not everybody in wrestling is going to be a good talker.
No.
But I also am at that point where it's like me doing the match card, say 2 weeks before, whatever. Look, guys, that is not the same platform as a talent on the show selling their one match,
telling you why you want to see them work.
Right.
And if everyone does that, and there's 7, 8, 9, 10 matches on the card, do the math. Do the math. Right. Some people are still going to not go, and they're assholes for it. But
yeah.
And sometimes you run the same weekend as AEW and 2 GCW shows. Can only do our best. But
no, yeah, those they're coming for you. Up north is starting a war. So real quick,
you said it,
rapid fire. The one person you have not worked with yet that I think I could still work with.
There's 2 of them.
Okay.
And they're tied for first. It's Anthony Gangone and PJ Savage.
The fact that you haven't worked Gangone surprises me. Savage makes sense, but that's interesting.
I mean, Savage and me, well, both of them. We were in a battle royal once, like a rumble.
You've never worked Gangone?
No.
Wow.
Outside of a rumble, no. I don't even think we touched in the rumble. I think I was eliminated before I could get mixed up with him. I swapped hands with threw hands with PJ a little bit in the rumble, but it's a rumble. It's not a match.
Yeah, no, it's that's a different thing altogether.
And there's plenty of other guys too, but those are the main 2 that I'm like, how is this not? Especially Gangone, like, how?
Yeah. The one name that I almost got booked that you can say.
Walter. Now Gunther.
Okay.
We tried to get Walter versus Moff.
Wow.
And we tried to get it for, I think it was like the big mid-season finale in June. And he's like, I'm sorry, guys, but that's too far in advance for me. Contact me later on. And then he debuted on TV like a month later. I'm like, oh, this son of a bitch.
Well, that'll do it.
But I kind of figured maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was that or if he had like home companies he was waiting for a booking for, but the thought was there.
Okay. The one Fed that you haven't worked for yet that you still would like to?
I would love to do WrestlePro or ECWA. Those are the 2 big companies in Jersey that I haven't wrestled for. I would have loved to with JAP as well, but unfortunately, unless they do a reunion show with Frank's son running it, and I don't know if that'll happen or not, that dream is probably not going to happen. But I mean, I went to check out the show as an invited guest, and they got an envelope from me with my DVD. Aging myself with that one. It's not a link; it was a DVD.
Yeah.
JCW would be cool again, although I've worked there a couple times. GCW would be nice. I don't know if I fit their product though, because I'm not doing death matches. So
yeah, well,
they probably wouldn't want me, and I understand.
Well, that's not true because you're at least entertaining, and they have guys that are not out of the death match mold. If done right, it could all work.
True. I would love to do an actual match on someone's TV, even if it's a squash. I've literally never had a actually national televised match.
But you've done extra work.
Yes, I've done extra work. So I've been on, but I've never had an actual. I've done the matches before the show in front of the producers, which is cool as fuck. But I've never actually had a match on WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, TNA, none of them. So NWA even, like, none. I would love to, even if it's a one-off, I would love to just at least to say I did it.
Yeah.
And I'm 38 now, so I'm not getting any younger, but I don't think I'm too old yet. Probably for WWE, never say never, but probably too old for them. But who knows elsewhere? Like, you never know, bro.
Just dye your beard real heavy and they won't know.
I'm 28, so you worked with us when you were 7? Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hired me as an extra. I got that Benjamin Button disease. I looked like an adult. I wasn't.
I did the Dr. Tom seminar when he was still an understudy. Besides Ridgefield Park, favorite venue to work?
Cliffside Park, school number 6 and the high school tied. The high school I was in for BWO only once, and number 6 school, which is like the middle school, I have better access because I'm in good with the VP.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was a lot of fun with Magic and the so much fun.
The one gimmick match that hasn't been at Magic yet that you would love to have.
Well, we just did cage match and war games. I would have easily said one of them.
Right.
Shit. Inferno match. No.
That's why I asked, because you finally got the cage. So.
Damn. I mean, a dumpster match would be cool. You don't see those too often. Dumpster or casket.
That's not bad. I don't think I've ever seen that in the indies.
They really haven't had many. that I know of. I mean,
yeah, I'm sure it's been done, but I've never
casket
seen
matches maybe, but dumpster matches, I don't think so.
Casket matches I've seen 2 of. One at Ace and one. The second one I'm blanking, but I've seen 2 casket matches. Yeah, sure. Yeah, and then of course dog collar, bull rope, all that stuff I've seen.
Right, we've done that.
All that. Yeah. What is going to be the biggest takeaway from this Sunday's card?
You can't miss Kingdom Come. That's going to be and you know what? It's going to be a great card. What a show is probably going to be said a lot. Holy crap! I can't believe it was that good. But the main takeaway is going to be I cannot miss Kingdom Come. That's on December 28th.
I like that. Well, that's December 28th. We are talking to you about this coming Sunday. Yep. Pro Wrestling Magic goes right back to it with a loaded, and I mean loaded card. It is Christmas Party, the road to Kingdom Come. We are talking about it. It is this Sunday. I want to give you the exact time so you can make it to the Phil Sheridan building on time. Ladies and gentlemen, doors open at 1. Bell time is at 2. 106 Bergen Avenue, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Pro Wrestling Magic presents Christmas Party. Steve, this has been a real pleasure. I'm glad we finally got to do this. Thank you so much for making time for me.
Thank you, man.
I'm always appreciating everybody's time. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for the company. Can't wait to be there this weekend. It's gonna be a good time.
It's gonna be a good time. And I hope a lot of the fans do the math and realize they can still go to Bloodsport if they come to our show. It will be over in time. You will get to Jersey City without a problem.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we're not that far. We're about a half hour away, 20, 30 minutes.
I was going to say it's about 25 minutes away to Jersey City, right?
Even if you're taking public trans, you'll get there fine. Or just Uber. Don't be cheap. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
you can make it to both, and I encourage you to.
There you go. And also it's not bill week or rent week. So your envelope is a lot heavier than ours. You can do both. You can do both.
Amen. Put it on a credit card. Figure it out later.
That is Steve All. This is the voice, Sharon Ortiz. Thank you all so much. The following conversation has been scheduled for one fall.